I still remember the way my phone rang that morning. It was early, far too early for Elon to be calling anyone, unless something important was sitting heavily on his mind. The sky outside my window was still soft and grey, and I had just wrapped my hands around a warm cup of coffee when his name appeared on the screen. And I don't know why, darling, but something in my heart shifted immediately. Mothers feel things before words are spoken. We hear emotion in silence long before anyone admits it out loud. When I answered, he didn't say Happy Mother's Day. He didn't talk about work. He didn't sound rushed. Instead, there was this unusual softness in his voice, and he asked me one simple question. Mom, are you awake? And oh, the way he said it nearly broke my heart, because suddenly I was no longer hearing the voice of the man the world knows. I was hearing my little boy again, the quiet child who used to stay awake at night, thinking too deeply about life. The boy who asked impossible questions at the dinner table, while everyone else was simply trying to eat. The child who looked lonely sometimes even when surrounded by people. Do you know what I mean, sweetheart? Have you ever looked at your grown child and suddenly missed the smallest version of them, so much it physically hurt your chest? Motherhood is a strange kind of love. Nobody warns us that one day our children will become adults with lives too busy for long conversations. Yet our hearts will still wait for their voices exactly the same way. Even after all these years, part of me still waits for Elon, the way mothers wait near windows during storms. And that morning, something felt different. There was emotion hiding underneath his silence. If this story already feels close to your heart, gently press like so. I know I'm sitting here with a woman who understands these feelings too. And if you enjoy these quiet conversations about love, family and motherhood, subscribe and stay close to me here. Tell me where you are watching from and what time it is where you are, because I always imagine one beautiful woman listening quietly with tea in her hands. Please share this with another mother, sister or friend, whose heart still worries about the people she loves most. And most importantly, stay with me until the end, because some emotions deserve time to unfold slowly. For a few seconds after he asked if I was awake, neither of us spoke. I could hear him breathing softly on the phone, and mothers notice these things immediately. Silence has different meanings depending on the person. Some silences are empty, some are angry, some are uncomfortable. But Elon's silence that morning felt emotional, almost nervous. Then he asked me another question. Mom, are you happy? I sat down immediately after hearing that. Not because the question was complicated, but because it was personal in a way I wasn't expecting. You see, women our age become experts at surviving. We learn how to keep moving even when we're exhausted emotionally. We become dependable for everyone around us, strong for everyone, calm for everyone. But very few people stop and truly ask us if we are happy. Not fine, not functioning, happy. And for a moment, I didn't know how to answer him honestly. Tell me something, darling. When was the last time someone asked about your happiness and genuinely waited for the truth? Not your polite answer, not your automatic answer, your real answer. I looked out the window while holding my coffee and finally told him softly, happiness changes as you grow older. And it does, doesn't it? When we are young, happiness feels dramatic, exciting, loud, romantic. But after 50, happiness becomes quieter, more intimate somehow. It becomes peaceful mornings, healthy loved ones, a gentle conversation, someone remembering your favorite flowers, someone noticing your tiredness without being told. At our age, emotional peace becomes more romantic than passion. And maybe that is why I worry about Elon sometimes. Not about his success, not about money, not even about public opinion. I worry about love, because powerful people often attract admiration, but not always understanding, and there is a painful difference between those two things. Many people want to stand beside successful men. Very few people truly know how to sit beside them emotionally, when the world becomes heavy. I think loneliness follows highly driven people in ways nobody talks about openly. Do you agree with me? Have you ever known someone who seemed successful in every visible way, but emotionally exhausted underneath it all? That is what mothers notice. We notice tiredness hidden behind confidence. we notice sadness hidden behind achievement. And deep in my heart, I have always wanted one thing for my son. Not a perfect woman, not a glamorous woman, not the most admired woman in the room. Just a woman capable of bringing peace into his restless heart. A woman who would love him gently when cameras disappeared. A woman who would protect his spirit instead of competing with it. A woman who would understand that intelligent men often carry invisible loneliness. As I listened to his quiet breathing on the phone that morning, I suddenly felt something unexpected in my chest. Fear. Not fear of losing him. Fear of him growing old emotionally alone. And before I could even ask what was truly on his mind, he finally spoke again, in a voice so soft, it almost sounded fragile. "Mum, I have something I want to show you today." I asked him where we were going, but he only laughed softly and told me to trust him. Now, darling, when your son becomes a man the entire world watches every day, surprises become very difficult. Life around people like Elon is usually planned down to the smallest detail. Every meeting, every flight, every appearance, everything is organized. But that morning felt different. It felt personal, quiet, almost sacred somehow. I took extra time getting ready after our phone call ended. Not because I was trying to impress anyone. Women our age stop dressing for attention long ago. We begin dressing for how we want to feel inside. And that morning, I wanted to feel soft, feminine, calm. I chose a simple outfit, brushed my hair slowly, and stood in front of the mirror longer than usual. And while I looked at my reflection, one painful thought crossed my mind. How many Mother's Days do we really get? Nobody likes speaking about age honestly anymore, but women think about it privately all the time. We count time differently after 50. Holidays begin feeling more emotional, because we understand how precious ordinary moments truly are. A breakfast together becomes meaningful. A phone call becomes meaningful. A hug lasts longer, because somewhere deep inside we know life does not promise endless chances. Have you ever felt that way too? Have you ever looked at your child during a completely ordinary moment and suddenly felt emotional because you realize time is moving faster than your heart is ready for? I think motherhood is really just another word for learning how to love while slowly letting go. When Elon arrived to pick me up, I noticed something immediately. He looked tired, but not physically tired, emotionally tired. There is a heaviness certain people carry behind their eyes when they have spent too many years being strong for the world. And despite everything people say about him online, despite all the headlines and opinions, I still see the same sensitive little boy underneath it all. Mothers never stop seeing that version. He stepped out of the car and hugged me tightly. Longer than usual. And darling, I cannot explain why something so small affected me so deeply. Maybe because physical affection changes as sons grow older. Little boys once climb into your lap without hesitation. Then suddenly they become men with responsibilities, schedules, distractions, and emotional walls. So when your grown son hugs you tightly without rushing away, your heart remembers every age he has ever been at once. I held on to him a little longer than normal too. Because one day without warning, you realize life is happening very quickly. As we drove together, I kept watching him carefully. He seemed nervous, quiet, thoughtful. He kept tapping his fingers against the steering wheel like something emotional was building inside him. And finally, I smiled and asked, "What exactly are you planning?" He glanced at me and smiled in that small, mysterious way he has had since childhood. You'll see, that man always loved suspense. Even as a little boy, he hated revealing surprises too early. When he was young, he would spend days secretly building strange inventions or drawing impossible ideas, then suddenly appear in front of me wanting to reveal them dramatically. There was always this deep inner world inside him, one nobody fully understood except perhaps his mother. And maybe that is why I worry about love when it comes to him. Because highly intelligent people are often deeply misunderstood emotionally. The world sees their confidence but not their sensitivity, their ambition but not their exhaustion, their achievements but not their loneliness. And loneliness, especially emotional loneliness, can quietly destroy even the strongest people. Tell me honestly, sweetheart, do you think it is harder for powerful people to trust love? I believe it is, because how do you know whether someone truly loves your soul, or simply loves access to your life? That question has haunted me for years when thinking about Elon's future. I have watched women admire him, desire him, chase him, but genuine emotional safety is rare, very rare. And mothers notice these things more sharply than anyone else. We notice when someone brings peace into our child's spirit, and we notice when someone only brings chaos disguised as excitement. At our age, we understand something younger people often misunderstand. Love is not supposed to feel like constant emotional confusion. Real love feels safe, steady, gentle. It allows your nervous system to rest. And deep in my heart, that is the kind of woman I pray my son finds someday. Not necessarily the most beautiful woman in the room. Although beauty is lovely, not the loudest, not the most glamorous, but the woman capable of making a restless man finally exhale emotionally. That kind of woman changes a man's entire life. As we continued driving, the city slowly disappeared behind us. Buildings became smaller, roads became quieter, trees surrounded us more densely. I rolled the window down slightly and felt cool air against my skin, while watching sunlight move softly through the branches. And for the first time in a very long while, Elon seemed calm, not distracted, not rushed, calm. Then suddenly, without looking at me, he asked something that completely caught me off guard. "Mum, do you think I'm difficult to love?" The question hit me so deeply I almost stopped breathing for a second, because no matter how old sons become, hearing hidden pain in their voice still affects mothers the same way. I turned toward him slowly and studied his face carefully. He was trying to sound casual, but mothers always hear the truth underneath casual questions. That question did not come from confidence. It came from accumulated heartbreak, from disappointment, from emotional exhaustion, and suddenly I realized this day was about much more than Mother's Day. Something heavy had clearly been sitting inside his heart for a long time. I reached for his hand gently and told him something every sensitive man needs to hear at least once in his life. "No, darling, you are not difficult to love. You are difficult to understand, and those are very different things." He became completely silent after I said that, and I think many women watching right now understand exactly what I mean. Some people are emotionally deep in ways the world no longer has patience for. They think too much, feel too deeply, hide pain behind intelligence. They struggle to explain their emotions clearly, so others mistake them for coldness. But often the people who appear hardest emotionally are secretly the ones needing the most tenderness. I looked out the window after saying that, and memories suddenly flooded my mind. I remembered Elon as a child reading quietly for hours. I remembered him sitting alone sometimes while other children played loudly outside. I remembered nights when he looked emotionally overwhelmed, but could not fully explain why. Sensitive boys often grow into emotionally guarded men. The world teaches them very early that vulnerability is dangerous, and perhaps that is why so many successful men throw themselves into work endlessly. Work feels controllable, predictable, safer than love. But no amount of achievement replaces emotional connection. No amount of money replaces being understood by one person who genuinely sees your heart. Do you know what I think women over 50 understand better than anyone else? That peace is the real luxury in life. Not fame, not status, not attention. Peace. A peaceful relationship. A peaceful home. A peaceful conversation at the end of a difficult day. That is real wealth. And as I sat beside my son that morning, I silently prayed again that one day he would experience that kind of love fully, not temporary passion, not admiration. Real companionship. The kind where two people protect each other emotionally from the cruelty of the world. Then finally, after nearly another hour of driving, he slowed the car near a beautiful property hidden behind tall trees. I looked at him in confusion, and before I could ask a single question, he turned toward me with eyes filled with emotion, and quietly said, "Mum, this is my surprise for you." For a moment, I simply stared at him without speaking. The sunlight was falling softly across his face, and suddenly he did not look like the powerful man the world argues about every day. He looked like my son again. Just my son. Vulnerable, hopeful, nervous about whether the woman who raised him would feel loved enough in that moment. I slowly stepped out of the car and looked around. The property was peaceful, hidden away from noise and cameras. Flowers moved gently in the wind, and somewhere nearby I could hear water flowing softly. Everything about the place felt calm, intentional, almost healing. Then Elon reached into his pocket and handed me a small folded letter. "Read it first," he whispered. "Darling." My hands were shaking before I even opened it, and when I finally unfolded the paper, I immediately recognized his writing. No matter how old mothers become, we never forget our children's handwriting. Isn't that strange? One small detail can carry an entire lifetime of memories inside it. The letter was not long, but every word inside it carried emotion he had probably hidden for years. He wrote that growing up, he often felt misunderstood by the world, but never by me. He wrote that no matter how difficult life became, part of him always felt stronger knowing his mother believed in him before anyone else did. And then came the sentence that completely broke me. "Mom, I spent so many years trying to build the future that I forgot to thank the woman who helped me survive the past." I could not hold my tears after reading that. Because sometimes mothers do not need grand gifts. We just need to know our love mattered, that our sacrifices were seen, that our children remember. I looked at him through tears, and for a second neither of us spoke. Then he hugged me again, tightly, almost like he was hugging every version of me at once. The young mother, the struggling mother, the exhausted mother, the hopeful mother. And in that moment, I realized something beautiful. Even the strongest men in the world still need a place where they can simply be someone's son. Before the day ended, I asked him quietly, "What do you want most now?" And after a long silence, he smiled sadly and said, "Real love, Mom, the kind that stays."